And we are live, guys. I'm here with Phuong, Dio, and I am going to destroy this name, Microchip New GNU. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we are in the third workshop for the near chain abstraction hackathon, right? And so now we're talking a little bit more details about Pogada, and I forget what the other one is, but I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves and start it off. I'll just go from like clockwise, so we'll start with Phuong and then just work our way down, and then say what's up.
All right, sounds good. I'm Fong. I'm an engineer at Pagoda. We're building multi-chain slash MPC related stuff. So I'm here to answer any technical questions you guys would have. But Dio will be doing the main presentation for multi-chain.
Go
I'm
for it, Dio.
Dio. I'm also from Pagoda. I do product for fast stop and chain signatures and kind of like multi-chain. So the same things that Fond is working on. And we have a presentation today that kind of like is going to walk you through our product suite for chain abstraction.
And Micro, go for it, man. Just tell me if I destroyed your name.
No, I mean, I know it's a pretty hard name. You can call me Micro. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so I'm Micro or Luis. You can call me either way. I'm CTO at Mintbase. I've been working with Mintbase for the past 3 years on Near. And yeah, my presentation is about how we're using meta transactions in account abstraction. Dive a little bit into what these things are, and then how we're productizing them at Mintbase.
Nice, very cool. So, I mean, the whole focus is as data availability and account aggregation. Real big question to start us off, right? Like we hear the term data availability all over the place. Like that's kind of like hot right now, especially with like the Celestia airdrop and all the stakers and all of them getting rewarded and everything. What does data availability actually mean before we start getting into like the actual workshop? Like, what does that mean to you guys? Anybody can take it.
Do you guys want to take it?
Yeah.
We actually don't work on data availability. I don't know if you probably
Yeah, I definitely don't know anything about it. Like our side is very much just MPC stuff. So
Okay, well then, yeah, go ahead and oh, Micro, you have something to say?
I mean, I think at the higher level, I think in the point, it might be wrong here because I also don't like know very specifically the goals of data availability, but I think a higher level would be accessing data from other chains or multi-chains, right, through just a near on near, right? That would be kind of like the higher level overview of what you can do with data availability.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was my general consensus idea of what it was on there. Of like, it's really hot of like being like a lot of cross chain right here, and like the kind of the whole point of like the chain abstraction of like not caring where your data is coming from, but as long as you get it, it doesn't really matter where the source is overall. But I'm gonna let I think Dio was the one leading the charge on this for his presentation. So take the wheel, Dio. Let's hear it.
For sure. Should I go first then? For sharing the screen, okay, it's already on. Perfect. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of like chain signatures, which is an API we have ready today in alpha that you can all try, and also kind of like more broadly on chain abstraction and account aggregation, which I'm sure you heard as kind of like our narratives going into 2024. In Ilya also did some presentations around it on EarCon. So let's talk about these two kind of like concepts. The first one is chain abstraction. It's pretty, it's very easy to understand, but basically what we mean is that users shouldn't have to know that they're using the blockchain or what blockchain they're using. And we're seeing some real use cases of that on apps on your Sweatcoin being one of them. Like they abstract a lot of the blockchain complexity, and Cosmos is also one that has a lot of active users, and they also don't abstract a lot of that complexity away from users. And we think that's kind of like key to win in Web3. The second concept is account aggregation. So users expect a Web2-like experience, kind of like signing in with Google, that they have one account, they can sign in on multiple websites, they know just one password, just one email address, like or an authentication mechanism to get into the account, and then they will be able to sign in on all the websites. And we believe the same should be possible with blockchain. So in this case, we're developing a way for you to have one year account that controls and can hold assets on multiple chains. So let's start with a little bit of context. I'm not going to spend too much time because I know you all know where we are in terms of Web3 onboarding and Web3 accounts. But basically, any app today that any new user that goes to an app that is fully decentralized has at least 10 steps to be able to get started. So yeah, they have to pick a wallet, kind of like understand what the wallet is, download an app or a browser extension, create an account, then seed phrase, then repeat back the seed phrase, on-ramp funds, because for them to submit anything on-chain, they need to pay for gas, which is also something that users don't fully understand if they're beginners. And then go back, connect, and sign a transaction that they probably don't even understand what it does. So that creates a lot of friction in onboarding. Of course, we all heard that it's one of the big issues of Web3, and there's actually some numbers that prove it. So this was a study run by Web3 Auth, and they found that any onboarding flow that has a seed phrase that basically makes the users save a seed phrase, the conversion rate is much lower than if there's no seed phrase, which seems pretty clear. But the numbers are around like 15-22% of conversion rate if we ask them to kind of like for a seed phrase, and 62% without. So that's a big difference in kind of like the number of users that you're going to be able to onboard to your app. Then the fact that they have to pay for gas also has implications. So this was also a study ran by the Decentraland where they subsidized transactions for a portion of the users, and then the other ones had to pay for gas. And they saw a big increase of 106% on activation rate, just because they were subsidizing gas for transactions. It was probably not a big cost for them, and it contributed to much higher activation rate of users. And then the last one is cost of acquisition. So as founders, that's kind of like one of the things we all care about is how much it costs to acquire a new user. And because of all these hoops and all these kind of like friction, the cost ends up being 3 to 7 times higher for a Web3 app if you compare it to Web2. So in response to that, we developed something that's the first product I'm going to talk about, what we call Fast Auth, which is available today for apps transacting on Near. And it's basically a 3-step onboarding process. So users only have to kind of like have an email address, verify their email, create a passkey, and they have an account that they can use on Near and that they can use to transact on Near. The easiest way to try it is on near.org. So if you click on create account and you follow the flow, that's basically Fast Auth under the hood. And we saw a big increase in conversion rates and activation rates using this.
I have a quick question for you on that. So, you know, we've kind of dealt with like account abstraction in a sense of different attempts on it. So when you're doing it on Near, does it create a smart account that is universal across all Near dApps? So like if I log into a brand new dApp that comes in, is that same smart account the same across all boards, or is each dApp specifically with a specific smart account for that dApp?
That's a great question. So that's up to the developer. We can work with both. So FastAuth is a de facto wallet that can be embedded and put on the wallet selector and be used to sign in with any app. Or if you want a more seamless experience and more kind of like a white labeled almost experience, you can just abstract all of that wallet complexity away from the user and have accounts that only work for a specific app. So it's up to the developer to either use it as a wallet or to use it as a full kind of like white label solution.
Developers out there, please use it as a global wallet. I'm tired of having like a balance of $100 here, and then I go to this other app and I have no balance under the same email. I'm like, so really, you know, generally like as a user experience, it gets fragmented over there. So having a global one as an option is super awesome. So devs, please, if you're listening, do me a favor. You know, go for it.
And we'll make it easier to build kind of like a global to adopt that global account kind of like logic. But yeah, I agree. If we have a global account, it makes a lot more sense, and users don't need more than one account. Especially when I'm going to start talking about multi-chain, then they have one. If they have multiple accounts, they have a lot of accounts also on other chains, so it ends up becoming really confusing for them. So just to recap, like why we built FastAuth and why we're seeing some success of people adopting it: 0-step onboarding for existing Web2 users, higher conversion rate. This means that if you have an existing Web2 app, you can just onboard all the users, create accounts for all of them, and they don't need to do anything. Sweat is actually integrating with FastAuth, and that's exactly what they're doing. So they have a Sweatcoin Web2 app, and they're just going to create Web3 accounts for all those users, non-custodial accounts. You can also sign up and recover an account with just an email address. And this is a big one There's definitely trade-offs. I want to be clear. There's trade-offs, and I'm going to talk about the users we're developing for in a bit. But the novelty of it is that even if you lose all your devices, your house is on fire, you're going to be able to recover your Near account through an email address. Assuming that you have an email address, you get a link you can recover. We have an MPC service that kind of like does that and adds in the full access key. So it's definitely more. It feels more like a Web2 service where if you lose all your devices, you can still log into Google or whatever Web2 account you have. And then the last advantage is like the gasless transactions. So by using our transaction relayer, which is already live for Near, and it's gonna have multi-chain capabilities soon. Of course, users don't have to pay for gas. They don't have to find on-ramps that work with their banks and their cards. So of course, that leads to an higher activation rate, and the time to first on-chain transaction decreases because we remove a lot of that complexity. So,
I got another question for you. And again,
Yeah,
if you're watching on here and you have a bunch of questions, just throw them in the chat. We'll post them on here. But so when we're talking multi-chain, and you might get to it, funding the relayer, do I have to fund it on every chain? Or is it like one, like I could fund it in Near and then it gives me the credits on whatever chain I need to, depending on the gas fee?
That's a good question. You don't have to fund it on every chain. And I'm going to talk about multi-chain relayer in a little bit. So just to finish kind of like wrap up the fast thought, I think the last thing I wanted to leave you with is who are we building for? And I think that's a really important question when you're starting a new company or a new app. You need to make conscious decisions. You cannot just build something for everyone because that doesn't work. And so we're focusing on users that are new to Web3, coming from Web2. They're new app users, so they don't have a wallet yet. It's not like they have a MetaMask and we're asking them to create something else, or they have a Near wallet and we're asking them to create something else. And they're also mobile first because most users, most of the web traffic is mobile first. We are not prioritizing Web3 power users like all of you. Of course, if you have a ledger, definitely keep your ledger for storing kind of like a large amount of funds. And of course, if you're using hardware wallets of any kind, like this is also not a product where you should continue with your self-custody. And that's a solution for like power users, but not all users are power users. Now, let's talk about multi-chain. So this is the evolution of FastSauth and everything we've been building so far. So there's this concept of account aggregation that was introduced on NearCon. You can leverage FastAuth or any kind of like other authentication solution to then have addresses on multiple chains. So you can hold assets and sign transactions on multiple chains using just one single Near account. This basically allows us to use the very flexible account model of Near to then transact on other chains that have kind of like different account models. So the way that this works, the first kind of like component of the system we call chain signatures. It's a very flexible system, so it's a very flexible API. You don't have to use FastAuth. We believe that's the easiest way, but you can also use any kind of like other authentication mechanism that gives you access to a Near account, a Near smart account that then holds keys to all these different chains. The keys are encrypted, of course, so you cannot just like see them on chain in plain text. But that account is used to derive addresses on all the supported chains. So we're planning on starting to support Ethereum, EVMs, BNB, and eventually, like there's a project that we want to prioritize to even support Bitcoin on a self-custody setup, which is pretty interesting. This is some pseudocode. The actual code you will see on a document later. But basically, the API is very simple. It allows you to sign a payload with a certain key derivation and key type that can work on multiple chains and then get a signature. Then multi-chain relayers, which we were starting to talk a little bit about. So basically, again, the relayer, the basic use case is a user wants to use an application, they don't want to pay for gas, and so they find a sponsor, which can be the app developer or someone else. The multi-chain relayer is a similar concept. So if you have a smart account or an account aggregation with one Near account that has access to multiple chains, you'll have to pay for gas on the native token of that chain. So if you're transacting on Ethereum, you need to have some ETH in order to pay for that transaction. What the multi-chain relayer does is removing that need to have the native token. So you can also have a sponsor, or there's another option, but you can have a sponsor that just sponsors like some of the core transactions that you can complete on those chains. And that means you don't have to spend any money. Or the other way to use the relayer, which is also something we're developing with Sweat first. But basically, you can pay for transactions on other chains using the tokens you already hold on Near. So in this case, someone that holds Sweat that they earn by moving or by buying kind of like the sweat token on year, you will be able to make a transaction on Ethereum, on BNB, and pay for gas with the sweat token on year. And the relayer kind of like manages all this complexity, and we'll have some documents coming soon on how all of this works. There's paymasters on each chain, but yeah, we basically abstract all of that complexity away from the user as much as possible.
So you're telling me I can do like 20 push-ups and pay for my swap gas fees on Uniswap, basically?
You can. I don't know how push-ups, how they account for push-ups on Sweat. I think it's based on steps, but yes, in the future you should be able to do so.
Yeah, very cool. That's pretty interesting. Like go for a run and then pay for your swap fees. Theoretically, would be a great marketing campaign if that
Great
became a
marketing,
reality.
sure.
Yeah.
Not sure Oleg is already thinking about the marketing, but yeah, it's a great pitch. So talking a little bit about timelines, I talked to a lot of concepts, and some of these things, to be honest, are not available today. So I want to be really clear about it. We're on alpha. We started building this chain signatures API only a few months ago. Documentation is non-existent. We have some docs to get you started. So everything is still pretty much on alpha, but developers can start using today the chain signatures API on testnet. Definitely send us any feedback, anything you see that doesn't make sense. We're continuously developing it. Pretty soon, by March, probably like mid-March, we're going to have a beta of a fully functional chain signatures API, which will be more stable, plus the multi-chain signer app using FastOff if you want to use that. If not, you can develop your own kind of like signer app, and then the multi-chain relayer on testnet as well. So you can start kind of like exploring how that works and kind of like how all of these comes together. Then our timeline for mainnet is early Q2, so probably in the first few weeks of Q2 is kind of like what we're targeting. Maybe it's going to be delayed by a bit because of the audits, but that's our plan. Mainnet, and when we talk about mainnet launch, we talk about chain signatures API, multi-chain relayer, and the signer app. So everything will be available on mainnet. Now you can get started today. Once again, we're on alpha, so please be patient, and we have a bounty for your patience with kind of like stability and some features that may be missing right away. But I will share the presentation after. There's links here for the instructions on how to access the alpha, kind of like frequently asked questions. All our code is open source, so you can peek under the hood, you can contribute if you feel like, but everything is open source, so you can see what's happening and what's missing, and kind of like we're very transparent about features that we're building as well. Our roadmap is also public, so you can see that on GitHub. And then, of course, we have this bounty of 2,000 USDC for teams that have the best implementation of chain signature. For the team that has the best implementation of chain signatures, once again, there's some limitations on the API, but we're here to help, and we'll try to also make it to the next office hours to answer any questions you may have.
Nice. We'll get that link to you shortly. But for those that are like curious about the stack, is it like JavaScript based, TypeScript requirements? What's the stack look like?
Phuong, you want to take this one?
Yeah. So the stack can be like so far whatever you want it to be, because like what you're doing is just trying to generate a signature. So all you need is a near client right now to send a transaction to a smart contract, and it'll eventually respond back with that signature. And you just need to fetch that signature. So that can be like whatever tech stack you choose.
Nice. So pretty open to anything, right? So like,
yeah.
What's the best way to reach you guys? So once, like for everybody watching on the YouTube channel, we have the instructions to get into the chain abstraction hack. There's some details and links on there. If they want to talk to Pagata, how do they get in contact with you guys directly?
That's a good question. So GitHub, everyone is on GitHub. So if you want, like that's a natural way. We can also circulate emails if anyone is using emails yet, or we can. I don't know if you guys have a shared Slack or something, but I can talk to you and Cameron and figure out the best way. People have also been leaving comments on our doc, but there's a link here for the instructions, and we reply to the comments. So there's multiple ways to get to us. Whatever you choose, we'll be happy to help.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Right after this, as we switch over, throw me that link in the private chat so I can host it on the YouTube for anybody following along. And that way they can direct link to it on there as well. That's awesome, man. I'm
I'll do that.
Like what you guys are doing right now is kind of like blowing things out of the water. Like, again, I'm dealing with the fragmentation, testing out account abstraction. Theoretically, it's making my user experience worse because I'm so fragmented. So then having the ability to have this as one global one to just, rule all and then cross chain it, I'm excited to see what you guys come out with in the next quarter.
Awesome. We're excited as well, but once again, be patient. We're building all of these in real time. So, yeah, you'll see the activity on GitHub.
I understand the grind for sure. Awesome. So I is that that's it for Pagoda right now at this point?
Yep, that's it.
Nice. Okay, Micro, I'm gonna hand over the mic to you. Do you want me to put your thing on stage now?
Sure. Yep.
Boom. Here we go.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say like thanks to Dio. I was really interested in hearing from you. Like, what's the the update on Pagoda, because we're also very interested in implementing a lot of these things too. And we should definitely get in touch after this call, because there's a lot of things I want to unpack here, and want to hear from you guys. So yeah, I mean, my presentation is about meta transactions and account abstraction. I try to go a bit on the definition of these things too, and then I'll try to explain a bit of what we've been working on, and how we're trying to prioritize this. So yeah, my name is Luis. I'm the CTO at Mintbase. I've been working with Mintbase for the past 3 years, and very specifically on Near. So there's a lot of learnings and a lot of things we've went through the past 3 years. Yeah, I'm really happy to see a presentation from you guys, Pagoda guys, and seeing where this is going. And this just makes me more excited about building on Near, to be honest. So yeah, meta transactions and account abstraction. Let's first start with like what is account abstraction, and I think Dio covered a bit of this, but I think I can also like just mention it again. Essentially, account abstraction at a higher level is just refers to before I can can you see my I can see it. Nice. Yeah, so just essentially refers to how you can transform like traditional crypto accounts into more flexible, programmable entities, right? So it's a concept that allows the usual account model in a blockchain to be customized and enhanced. So in simple terms, I think account abstraction just means that you can turn any crypto account into a smart contract. This smart contract based account can then be programmed with specific rules, permissions, behaviors. So it just gives like more flexibility and control over transactions, including who can sign, what is signed, how it is signed, and when. And with this, there are many things that can be built on top of this. Many of the things Dio already mentioned, I try to cover like basic ones here, like two-factor authentication, where like you can enhance security beyond just a basic private key, account recovery options, and again, like as like fast auth, they're kind of like allowing you to recover the account with an email, and customizable transaction rules, automated transactions, allowing for scheduled or condition-based transactions, a lot of things. But to be honest, like Near has had this for like the past 3 years, sort of, right? Not fast off, not all of these solutions, but account abstraction, and in a general sense, Near accounts have always been sort of like this. But more recently, we're seeing developments in account abstraction and other ecosystems, and this kind of just captures, just general what's being generally worked everywhere. But before we dive into the very specifics, this was the first thing when I joined Near about like 3 years ago that I had to learn, because coming from Ethereum, where like you had, I mean, you've had like Gnosis safe accounts and things like that for a while, but the general crypto account would be just a key pair, and on Near you have like these human readable names. Each account uses multiple key pairs, so each key pair has like a different set of permissions. You have full access keys, you have function call keys. So full access means exactly like this key pair can sign any transaction with an account, like has full access to the account. And a function call key like would have a set of permissions, let's say just running a certain number of methods in a contract or things like that. And then yeah, that's pretty much it. So while on a key pair or an externally owned account, if you lose your private key, or someone get access to that private key, that's the private key that has full access to your account. So your account is compromised, and you might be you might lose your assets or control over your account. Yeah, so this diagram kind of like illustrates how this works on here. So my wallet, my account can have like 2 key pairs, for example, one in my laptop, the other on my mobile phone. And both of these key pairs have permissions for everything. And I can sign transactions with my wallet that are then submitted to the near network, right? But yeah, in the scenario that I lose access to my phone, I could use my laptop that has the key pair 1 to revoke the key pair 2 from my account, right? So I could remove that key, and my mobile phone will no longer be able to sign transactions and submit transactions with my wallet, right? And then the other scenario is if I don't trust an app or a device, maybe I could just create a key pair. For example, the VR headset, I don't really trust my VR headset, so I need to create a very specific key there that allows, minting an NFT, for example, or doing something on a contract, and that's it. That's the only thing that that VR headset can do is just minting a minting transaction. And yeah, so this leads us to meta transactions. And I think again, like Dio did a good job at like covering this, but to me, like meta transactions, simply put, are just free transactions. So account abstraction doesn't eliminate the need to pay for gas fees, but it abstracts away the details of how and when users choose to pay for gas. So for example, account abstraction enables sponsored transactions, and that's like, it's not really free, it's sponsored by someone else. And yeah, so you could use like non-near gas payments where you would be able to pay for a transaction with other tokens, and you're also able with meta transactions to have gasless transactions, so you don't have to pay for these. And this leads us to the relayer, and essentially this is the crucial part here. And relayers are these services that receive signed transactions from users and forwards them to the blockchain, right? And this is very important for us at Mintbase too, and I'll explain a bit later how we're using them. But it greatly improves the user experience, and we just like introduced these a couple months ago. So, and we had like a great, I think, the user adoption is much bigger because before, like, users had to have like crypto funds or would like the whole crypto experience just improved by introducing meta transactions, and I'll show in the next couple of slides how we're using these. But yeah, for developers, relayers are just this gateway for making accessible applications, and they are pretty flexible. And I have a few examples of how you could build this with TypeScript. So on the client side, this is just the client side code, for example, that I built at first when I tried to play around with meta transactions. And there are a few things here. You need to have like the signer account. You then can just create a function call transaction, like or an action in this case, where you can do whatever here, and then you would need to create a signed delegate using near API.js that takes actions or an array of different actions you want the user to sign, then the block height TTL, and this is just the number of blocks plus the current block height for which the signed delegate transaction can be included in a meta transaction, and then the contract address. And that's pretty much it. This would result in a signed delegate transaction that then can be submitted in the form of HTTP requests to a relayer. And on the server side, then this is just a Next.js serverless function deployed on Vercel, and just a simple HTTP server that receives this request, deserializes or unpacks sort of like the transaction, takes a look at it and see, all right, do I want to submit this transaction or not? So you could add any conditions between deserialized delegate and result, and before you're actually submitting the transaction to. I mean, you could just take a look at it and see, maybe I want to fund this, maybe not. In our case, like how we're using this, we're not allowing certain transactions, right? Because if there's a certain amount of deposit that takes a lot of funds from our relayer, we don't want to do that. But that's pretty much it. So this is very simple, and it's ready to use, and it's pretty cool that you can do this on Near. So this takes me to say that I think the best user and developer experience is on Near. I've had experience before on other chains. I'm not too familiar with how things are looking today, to be honest. So it's kind of a bold claim to say that Near is the best user and developer experience, but this is how I'm feeling about it. And I know, like, again, I feel super excited when I see, for example, like the previous presentation where you see how things are where things are going. And I do believe that the future is looking bright. So yeah. Then I brought this slide in to just compare a bit of the differences between near accounts and smart contract accounts, and then the other hardware wallets, key pair, or the externally owned accounts, and custody partners. And I want to just focus a bit on a couple of these metrics, or a couple of these things, like the cost. It's pretty cheap to like create new accounts on Near, while, for example, like on an EVM chain, creating like a smart contract account is a bit more expensive. And then there's this possibility of cross-chain compatibility to on Near that makes me very excited. And yeah, I mean, this pretty much covers a lot of these things. Like the UX, you could see that Near is also really high on, I think, on the user experience, while comparing to other things like hardware wallet, where you still have a lot of the process with a physical device, and seed phrases, and managing like different accounts. And yeah, but again, like, how we're trying to productize a lot of this is through our wallet. So it's a solution that we've been developing for a couple of months, where we try to bring in the relayer, the like creating accounts, free accounts, and things like that. And there are a few features like meta transactions. Again, we're using a lot of this for the experiments we've been doing at Mintbase. We have like a social application sort of that we've been using at a certain amount of crypto conferences called Minsta. And the first time we used that was a couple of months ago, like probably 2 years ago. And the onboarding experience was not good. Like, we've learned that even though we're at this crypto conference, people don't really have accounts with funds, or they don't want to connect to your account for some reason. But since we introduced meta transactions, and we're covering or sponsoring these minting transactions, we noticed like a way bigger amount of users willing to use and participate. And not only that, but also like we turn that app into like a template that people can fork and deploy on their own, under their own domain, customize it however they want. And we've been starting to see like a lot of these things pop up in the ecosystem, and that makes us very excited, because finally we're starting to see how all of this is being used. But yeah, also passkeys. That's a big part of how our wallet experience. Unfortunately, I think Windows is not really compatible, and I've been trying. Maybe you guys from Pagoda can help me out there. But we've been having a lot of complaints here on the Windows side. But the iOS, Android, and pretty much everywhere else, everything's great. And like removing the seed phrase process and everything actually helps increasing user retention. And again, like human readable names, that's part of Near too. I'm sure all of you are aware of this. But to highlight that this is very important when you're onboarding users and creating like a good user experience for these wallets. What else? Yeah, so here's something. I want to take a break here and maybe let some of you like experience our wallet and just take a look at how you can use this. Maybe I can copy.
I'm going to try to make that full screen. So you want us to scan that QR code?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to copy the link, but it's not possible now.
It's
but yeah, if anyone
wallet.mintbase.xyz for those that want to do it. You want to have that secret link on there?
Yeah, let me try to get it.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And just an FYI, this QR code, because I know people are always kind of sketchy. Is it
Yeah,
cool to
yeah,
click?
I know.
Just to make sure.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to relay this to the chat,
Yes.
I sent it over.
Yes, I will get that in there. That'll be on the main chat. So those that don't have a phone, or looking on their desktop, or actually watching on their phone and can't scan their own screen, it's been on there. And that looked horrible. Whatever that copied in, that was horrible. Let me try that again.
Oh yeah, don't open the link. Just literally
Just copy.
copy.
Yeah, let me
Yeah,
virtually
because
copy that.
then it impacts a lot of stuff. Okay.
Yeah. And there's no way for me to delete that on StreamYard, so apologize to everybody on YouTube. Just get like a whole bunch of spam. Let me see if I'm gonna have to paste it, because it does a little special thing on StreamYard here. Let me go to make sure that goes correctly. Copy that. And then trying that again. There we go. That should go. Okay. That's the link you want to check out. Download the wallet, check it out. And what are we looking to do on this? I'm kind of like following
Yeah,
along with
this is just a drop. So essentially, just uses Meta transactions, uses our wallet for people to claim this NFT. Essentially, you're getting a free NFT to your wallet, and yeah, just trying to get people to experience what we've been working on and how all of these things I've been talking about are being productized.
Nice, nice, super cool. Yeah, like just in general, like from feedback from me, like I've been doing workshops for 3 weeks with Near, and like I'm a hardcore EVM guy. Like I'm like think of those gang members that like put their gang name on their forehead for life, you know. But I'm being sold on like what Near's doing and all the capabilities of what you can. You know, it's kind of like, oh, you know, I'm dealing with this, and you guys like, well, we're fixing this, this, and that. You know, there's a lot of ecosystem things happening on like different chains. Solana's doing their thing, Polkadot's doing their thing. And it wasn't really until these workshops that I'm saying like what's really happening on Near. I mean, once, you know, a long time ago, I set up my Near wallet and I was like, okay, why should I go here? Why should I buy a PlayStation 5 versus buying an Xbox? Like, what's the difference if I can get the same games everywhere? But seeing what's happening here with the decentralized front ends and like the account abstraction and like chain abstraction as a whole, you know, I'm like, I'm gonna add a Near tattoo to my forehead too. It's pretty dope. Pretty dope.
And I think the good thing is that you don't have to choose. You can benefit from the our account model on Near and still kind of like transact on other chains. So I think that's the promise of chain abstraction, is that you can use each chain for what they are made for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty dope. That's what I really like about the approach. It's not like just come to our side and like our side is the best way. It's more like it's making the whole space better for everybody that you decides to go whatever path they want to. And I think that's super cool. Like the direction that's going on with the sentiment overall with all the teams that I've been talking to. We're gonna leave that QR code a little bit
Yep.
longer just in case for anybody to like to grab it and everything. But any follow-ups on this? So just for anybody that's catching up on the cast or like been following along with the production, there is a chain abstraction hackathon going on right now. I'm gonna add Cameron here to the stage as well. So it's not too late to sign up. I know we're on the final days of it, but I mean we just had the third workshop. You just seen how things work. You know, a lot of people get the misconception that if I want to work on Near, I have to learn Rust and get things going. But if we're looking at here, the stack is pretty JavaScript heavy, TypeScript heavy. I know there's a lot of front end developers out there that are looking to break into Web3. What a good place to start, like with Near and all the tool sets that are happening. Again, we're all early beta, and this is, you know, the crypto space, but definitely, I mean, the teams are here. Like when I think about like availability of teams, like if I want to learn basketball and I wanted to like play with LeBron James, there's no way that I would ever make that happen. But if I want to work with the CTO of Mintbase, he's like one Telegram DM away, right? Like it's the ability to work with the people that are actually building the stuff. You have the opportunity to meet the people that are making the big changes now in this ecosystem, which is super, super dope. Anyway, Cameron, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it over real quick.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, everybody. Yeah, sorry for the confusion about data availability. That workshop is next week. Just, yeah, stay tuned for data availability talk next week. I kind of wanted to take the next, 15 minutes or so and talk about what people can build with chain abstraction and, chain signatures, because I think this is where it gets really exciting. What if you can start building some sort of like ordinals marketplace, using a Near wallet and like transacting and maybe even like, cross-chain liquidity pools, really to, again, abstract, but the really crappy blockchain experience away from the end user, because quite frankly, we are not going to get to billions of users with the current experience. And so I kind of want to ask like Dio and Phuong from the Pagoda side of things, what do you guys envision as like best case scenario here? Like, what is this, like MetaMask integrating chain signatures? Is this, Phantom integrating this stuff? Like where could this go? To actually make a change for the industry.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that traditional wallets do not necessarily have to adopt and kind of like adopt the things that we've been talking about. I think if you are savvy enough to get a MetaMask or a Ledger, like I said in the beginning, you should keep them because they're pretty secure. Like I have no notes if you're a power user. I think what's important to understand is that most users, or the big majority of users, are not power users. And sometimes we come to Web3 and we forgot all we learned in Web2, where we're trying to like remove as much friction as possible. And in here, we still add a lot of friction. So I think for me, like the dream case scenario is that people are going to be using multiple chains without even knowing that they're using the blockchain. And once again, we as developers, we can build experiences that leverage the strengths of all these chains. So in the case of Near, high throughput, very cheap transactions in a very flexible account model. Those are kind of like the reasons why I would build on Near. And of course, Ethereum, if you want more access to liquidity, NFTs, most of them are on Ethereum. So you can allow users to transact and build experiences around all these chains without having to like ask them to download 3 wallets and like manage like I don't know many seed phrases. So it's just not realistic that most users are going to be able to do so. So I think we just remove that friction out of the way, and now you have a blue sky of like building whatever you want, using whatever chain you want, and it's just going to be a very simple user experience.
Got it. So, I mean, when I'm hearing about this, because I've talked to a lot of enterprises about getting into Web3, and they're all super confused, and quite frankly, don't do the research on how the bridges work and where the security risks are and all this other stuff. And so, I'm hearing you, and I'm like, wait, it sounds like we're actually targeting enterprises with this, because they don't really necessarily want to pick a specific chain. They already have millions or billions of users. Like, they just want to enable people to own their money, data, and governance across the chain that they want. And I think that like that really is the kicker here, because I spoke with like Meta and around Instagram when Polygon launched their Instagram or their NFT thing, and like they were just like, oh yeah, we want to like experiment with this, but it's not totally certain that this is going to pan out. But we are interested in other chains, but we don't really want to like take on that technical debt of deploying contracts everywhere, because they don't even know if it's like a huge, like there's a huge market for it yet. So when I'm hearing you, it's like, well, we should be going after these like Web2 projects or companies with like billions of users and saying, hey, you shouldn't have to care where you deploy, just ship on Near and you automatically have interoperability between all these other chains. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I always, and again, I also talk to a lot of enterprises. I think innovation always starts with smaller companies, and that's why we are on this hackathon. I feel like small teams kind of like hacking something together have a better chance of building something innovative on the blockchain in any other kind of like area. Maybe some exceptions with AI, because you need a lot of data to build a good AI model. But anyway, on blockchains, I still believe that small teams have a better chance of like unlocking these new user experiences and value. I think enterprises will eventually get there. And I think there's a big advantage on self-custody, for instance, that it's more of an advantage for a small company. Like a small company does not want to be a custodian. And so anything that is user-friendly in self-custody, like FastAuth, like Mintbase, it's the preferred option for those companies. In big companies like Coinbase, Facebook, they probably don't mind being custodians. Like they are set up. They have a bunch of lawyers. They have a bunch of people that can work, that can make that happen. And they can take some advantages, but they will not necessarily benefit immediately from self-custody. And so for us, I mean, our strategy is to target founders and developers at Pagoda and attract them into the Near ecosystem. And then enterprises will eventually come later. It's not such a big area of focus right now.
But the startups, I mean, to be also very blunt, like there's not a huge amount of very profitable businesses in the Web3 space. But these startups, if there is enough demand for the enterprises, like they can service the enterprises. Like that is, I'd say, like one of the biggest, opportunities in the space is like if you provide a really good solution to then onboard all Sony users or all PlayStation users to, the open web, like there's value there. Sony will pay you if you make their job much easier. And so, yeah.
I got 3 things on there real quick as we're talking about like onboarding users. I mean, I think of the RPC model, right? One heavy user, one enterprise users pays for all the other RPCs, right? So like, you got big guns like Alchemy and Infura, like they give you free RPCs for developers to use the name, and that name has brand, and then they got that one big client that basically pays the bills while all these other guys use the free clients. And that model seems to be the same way that a lot of the account abstraction tends to work. Second one would be Potato of Doom has a comment about a feedback link in the app. I think that we send the QR code, like he's getting a permission error on the feedback app. And then the third question to follow up, just kind of like to tie it all in, for all the hackers that are watching right now that want to build something on Minbase, want to build something on Pagata, what is the dream hack that you're looking to see for the developers to tinker around with and like submit for the chain abstraction hackathon? What would you love to see? Because like sometimes you have an open menu and you can't decide which path you want to go to. What is the team looking to see on both sides?
Louis, do you want to start? Just trying to get more time to think.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Well, I mean, we've been thinking a lot about the different things you can do with meta transactions, and I mean, I don't think there's one thing that we want to see. I mean, ideally, to be realistic here, our goal is to create like this list of different templates that can help the community to develop further. And we started out with like 12 different templates we built out ourselves, and that's what the base, what the developers joining the hackathon today like can use to start their hackathon with. They have several projects they can use, and our ideal goal is that some developer or team can come up with a better template than we did, that we can include in our templates, right? That helps creating a better repository that other developers can use in the future to build out new things. But so one of the things we also thought about was, like Mintbase has been involved in a couple of ticketing events, and we try to provide like NFTs as tickets. And a lot of the issues we had first, I mean, no internet connection or bad internet connection, and users don't have accounts and don't have crypto to like submit transactions and things like that. And it feels like now, like with meta transactions coming in, relayers sponsoring transactions, and I think we're starting to finally realize our initial vision of ticketing. So you could sign transaction like with no internet, and send that somehow like to present the signed payload to like the merchant, and the merchant then has internet connection that then can submit that transaction. So using like meta transactions, but instead of having like a company paying for that, like it's the merchant itself, like it could like sponsor the submission of that transaction. But this is just one of the ideas we had while we were creating the bounties. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure. It's like sometimes like when I go on a hackathon, you see so many bounties that you're like basically like in like this analysis paralysis. It's like taking my girl to go get something to eat, and like there's a huge menu, and like just pick something, So it's like sometimes when you hear like these are the recommendations that we really recommend, helps people get focused and be like, okay, this is where we want to go. And so like
Yeah.
creating a ticketing off-chain signing and then making a QR code so someone can scan it with internet, then can verify that would be a great project. So like that's an awesome direction on there. So I liked it.
Yeah, on our side, I mean, we try to like develop the tools and kind of like products for developers and founders to build businesses. We try not to get too much onto the business side. But I think, again, if we think about like what we were talking about Sweat, like I think if you can find something that users can relate to, like a way to earn tokens, like through moving or through like any other mechanism, there's several ways today to earn tokens and then use it to just subsidize you as you learn kind of like Web3. I think that's a pretty interesting thing to do, and I'm sure. So that's one aspect of it, is just kind of like allowing users to earn tokens in a way that they can for free, and then just like subsidize their learning journey into like trying out different apps and different chains. The other thing that I think a lot about is there's probably a marketplace that hasn't been built for attention of users in Web3. In the sense that, like, if you think about relayers and sponsors of transactions, there's definitely like apps that want users. There's apps that have interest in like users using certain use cases, certain smart contracts. And so being able to like find a sponsor that sponsors like as you are trying and do that, I think could be interesting. I think there's probably a marketplace play there, because again, you have a lot of apps trying to attract users. They may not be very user friendly, but if you adopt chain abstraction and all these kind of like ideas, I think it's going to be much more accessible. And an example I'll give there, I worked at Coinbase before. They have something that I forget the name now, but basically you can get subsidized, you can get free tokens just by learning about a certain protocol, just by learning a certain app. in users are incentivized to kind of like learn more and kind of like start exploring, then it's good for the apps and the protocols themselves because they get exposure to more users as well. So I think it's just like a beneficial relationship between the two. And yeah, if we make everything super user friendly, I think we're going to see a lot more users trying it.
Yeah, I have a couple, and also I have a question for Phuong. One, if you can wait, actually, question for Phuong. On-chain encrypted content. I was told we can do like MEV mitigation, and there's a whole sort of like opportunity for preventing MEV on Ethereum. Can you unpack that a little bit? Because they're very big claims to me, and I like to like I believe things when I see them, sort of thing. Because MEV mitigation, if we can actually fix that, like, this is like one of the biggest issues.
Sure. Wait. So
leading forward on this one right here.
so remind me what MEV mitigation is again.
Yeah, so like, how do you prevent like minor extractable value on Ethereum? So in a nutshell, it's like the MPC nodes and like signatures can allow any individual to securely communicate with a smart contract by depositing some sort of like encrypted payload that the contract can then decrypt or re-encrypt and then send to a third party. So the validators don't actually see like the value of the content coming through the chain until it actually like needs to be like put on chain. And so, yeah, this is something that I talked to one of the DMD, David Miller Durant from Pagoda on, and it blew my mind. And I was like, wait, if this actually works, then this is fundamentally changing Ethereum.
Yeah. So how I imagine it could work is like the signature that we're generating with like multi-chain can be used to derive like an encryption key while on chain, and that can just like whenever you're submitting any payload, like that would just be directly encrypted on chain itself.
So what I'm going to paraphrase David, and he's the best person to explain the concept. But I think his idea was to build an MEV proof DEX, so that your bid on a token is submitted encrypted, because you have the ability to kind of like encrypt content on chain and decrypt it on demand to like specific players. So again, you would not be able to kind of like see what that bid is, because it's encrypted. And he has this idea. Just to be clear, this is not something you can build today with our API, the way that it's built. But the idea was to use what we currently use to encrypt private keys to different chains on chain to build something like an MEV proof, kind of like decentralized exchange.
Got it.
You should have David on to explain this better.
Yeah, maybe in the future. I mean, I just wanted to see like some sort of reference implementation for that, because if this is possible, like we can actually solve, I think, the biggest issue in Ethereum today, which is censoring transactions at the block level. So, yeah, so there's that. But in terms of ideas, there's all these like big games, and I think in the next bull market we're going to see a lot more like large gaming studios like come into Web3, and a lot of people are currently building blockchain games like AAA studios. But a lot of the newcomers that want to come, if there is success in the existing blockchain games, they're going to want a very easy way to spin up accounts across many chains for all of their users. So some sort of like wallet SDK and I hear this idea all the time, by the way, like, we're trying to go after these big players, enable them to create wallets very easily, mint NFTs very easily. Hey, we had this like Unity SDK integration, all this other stuff, but it's always for one chain. And what I would like to see is, because I'm a big gamer, and quite frankly, like I have not seen a blockchain game that is actually like warrants my attention, like at scale, like I do play like my existing games. But it's going to be even a worse experience if I have to then go create wallets for every single one of these chains, for every single one of these games. And there's a huge lack of interoperability, and this actual like Web3 gaming vision does not actually come to life if there's not real interoperability. And so I would love some sort of SDK where it spins up wallets on behalf of users that are playing existing games for many chains. And, from there, you can then mint. I mean, like the minting and actual like transaction needs to live on a chain. Hopefully it's near, but like maybe probably, a lot of people will probably choose, I don't know, Immutable's doing a pretty good job on the gaming side. It's more of a BD play, quite frankly. So I'm curious if you guys think this is possible with chain signatures and multi-chain accounts. Essentially spinning up wallets for many chains.
Yep. I mean, I don't know if it's exactly what you asked about, but with something like multi-chain fast auth and chain signatures, you can generate public keys on different chains without submitting on-chain transactions, so for free without paying for gas. So the object, like if you create an account, let's say at a game, that account will hold keys to like all the chains that they support, and they have to, of course, they'll hold private keys that are encrypted, but also public keys. So in theory, I think you can generate multiple addresses the first time users sign up for something.
Got it. Or even like,
I have a question actually for Dio too, like for you guys. So how can I? So I assume like, do I need like a smart contract account on Ethereum as well for you, like using my Near account and like submitting transactions or holding? How can I? How will this be achieved with Ethereum?
So Phuong, please correct me if I'm wrong. So you would not need a smart contract account on Ethereum. Of course, we have like 3-layer and we have infrastructure, but the user itself, they're gonna hold private keys to a derived address on Ethereum, and then we use our MPC service to sign that transaction. But Phuong, you know better than me if you wanna take it.
That's perfectly fair. Yeah, like yeah, you shouldn't need a contract at all unless like the only time you should be interfacing with a contract is like if you're trying to use a DApp on like Ethereum side. But yeah, that should be like so fine. Like the Near account is still managing the Ethereum account, so ideally, yeah, you shouldn't really need to like worry about the smart contracts at all on Ethereum side.
Just to understand this for myself, so the Near smart contract account is basically generating EOA with the private key generated by the Near smart account, right? So you're not really building a smart contract wallet, but basically an EOA that gets controlled by the Near account that will sign off for it.
Yep.
Nice. So like no extra gas fees, because extra gas fees.
Yep. I know we're running up on time, but I have some other like mint-based templates ideas. You know, a lot of these like e-commerce stores want referral systems. We're essentially taking the things that have worked in Web 2 and like creating a Web 3 template for it with a wallet. And I'd say like e-commerce affiliate marketing, like these type of like growth hacky, you know, things are amazing templates that I don't think exist in mint-based templates right now. And so just do it. There's so many references in Web 2 to point to, like even on all the UI, everything on chain. Well, you can actually then put the JavaScript code, like the front end, also on chain, and can have completely permissionless referral systems. Like, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. To be fair, like our contracts support affiliate. So whenever you're buying on the function call, you can add like a referral address, and that will take half of our marketplace fee. So we take like 2.5%, meaning that the referral would take 1.25%. We do have like a boss marketplace app, and it uses the affiliate, but I don't think we have one on GitHub templates, and that's a great idea for sure. But anyone in the hackathon could do that. So excited to see if there's anyone excited to build that.
Cool. I'd also like to be able to sell a Bitcoin account on Near. I mean, I think this is kind of going on like the chain signature or like, you know, account aggregation piece. These like essentially key marketplaces for wallets on other chains, but the marketplace lives on Near. I think that's very, very possible. There's a whole list of ideas. We put a lot of time creating them. And so if you want to check out the list. But yeah, burner accounts, relayers, link drops for other chains. I would love to have like some sort of like cross-chain ENS marketplace in a way. Like if you're able to, you know, I don't exactly know how you do this, but like claim another like human readable name across other chains and have like a key marketplace that is all controlled by one Near account. You know, there's a lot we can do here. We actually are having a team building session for this hackathon twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. So if you go to the chainsignature.org/calendar, you can stay up to date with all of the different events that we're running. So definitely check it out if you're looking to build a team or just, talk about the different ideas that we can build. So that's pretty much it from my end.
And that's about 55 minutes from now at this time. If anybody's watching live, that's about 55 minutes from now in the Discord or in.
It's in the Zoom link.
Okay.
So we can break out the rooms and do the kind of,
Got it. Let me go ahead and just put that on the calendar. I'm putting the calendar for those watching on the YouTube stream. It is labeled on the information of the stream, but I'm just going to go ahead and put this in there one more time. As we're coming to a close, I really, really enjoyed the chats. I really like learning about what was going on. Any final words or shout outs or words of inspiration for the hackers looking to get deeper into this?
Yeah, sure. We do have twice a week team building sessions, 24/7 chat support and Telegram. We are doing actually a live workshop today in San Francisco. If anyone here is based in the Bay and wants to dive deep about chain signatures with other builders, we're doing that today at 6 p.m. I can drop the link here. And this is just the beginning. As Dio and Phuong and Luisha mentioned, this is all just getting started. And so if you join now, we're going to be doing more hackathons. And so what you learn now is going to be very applicable long-term in many different regards. So definitely take the time to learn.
Well, guys, it's been a pleasure.
Sorry, I was about to say something. No, I'll probably hack something for the hackathon too. I've been thinking about it today. Just to join. I love hacking. So if anyone's interested in joining for a session too, I'll be around and yeah, just saying that I'm excited for this one hackathon.
All right, guys. Well, it's been a pleasure. Awesome meeting you. I'm looking forward to seeing what projects come out and what ideas and what far-fetched ideas somebody came out with in the presentation time. When is the final date for everybody on there for submissions?
January 28th. And then we probably need a week to review everything. There's about 400 people signed up, so I'm a little overwhelmed on how many reviews I might actually have to do. But let's see how it goes. I'm excited.
Also, for all the hackers, I know we have 400 signups and usually people follow up. Submit what you got. Sometimes it could be a killer idea and people are like, oh, it's not good or it's not finished. Submit what you got.
Couldn't agree more on that. Billy, looks like you froze.
Who knows? Who knows? Conversation, for sure. Yeah. All right, guys. It's been a pleasure. Catch you on the next one.
See you guys.